What do you need?
Nothing.
Okay.
Eric's up. Give me 1 sec. Eric's up here, and now I need to get him downstairs.
Okay. Okay. What's going on, everyone? It is Tim. I'm here with Lance. Lance will be here in just a moment. We are doing a live show today. A brief live show, nothing crazy, but we released episodes on the Missing and Crawlspace channels. Crawlspace is our other podcast. This right now is being broadcast on the Missing YouTube, but we released episodes today on both Missing and Crawlspace talking about the possibility of a serial killer in New England. And this is a story we've been following pretty closely as Lance and I are in New England. We've covered many serial killers from New England and from other regions. But this one is, we're kind of feel like we're on the ground floor of because we're here in New England and are watching this sort of take off on social media.
Yeah, so apologies there for having to run off for a second, but I'm back. And what I'm gathering you're talking about is that we feel like it's necessary to start the coverage on this. This doesn't necessarily mean that we support the theory that there's a serial killer. We just want to go through all of the details and learn about this as learn about this as everybody else learns about this. And we did the episode on it because there had been 6 bodies, and this morning we were talking about it. And as we were talking about it, we started, you know, looking at any updates in the news, and now there are apparently 8 bodies that have been discovered. So if there's no one individual, what's up?
Your microphone is scratching.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I got caught on my.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
That's okay.
if there's no one individual who's responsible for this, why is it that these particular people are being highlighted when we know, like, all throughout the country there are clusters of bodies that have been found unrelated, not connected to any theory of a serial killer? So why these individuals?
Why the what?
Why these individuals?
Yeah. Yeah, so briefly, let's do a quick rundown. And again, we released a podcast episode today on Missing and Crawlspace, and we urge you to check that out because we go through all these cases in depth. But on March 6th, the remains of Paige Fannin were found near Norwalk, Connecticut, by the Norwalk Police Scuba and Fire Rescue Team. And authorities located clothing and personal items left on the bank of the Norwalk River before eventually discovering Fannin's body. I found that little part, I think, after we recorded the episode. But interestingly, her clothes were found near the shore, possibly indicating suicide, I guess, is why I'm mentioning that. Also on March 6th, unidentified remains were located by a hunter in a wooded area in Plymouth, Massachusetts. No information on gender, age, or cause of death. Okay, so and that's quite a distance away,
Yeah,
Norfolk, Connecticut, and Plymouth, Massachusetts, and also, no information on gender, age, or cause of death. So this could literally be an ancient body, and we just don't know.
right.
Just not enough information on that one. And then March 19th, 2025, unidentified remains of a 40 to 60-year-old female were located inside of a suitcase near a cemetery in Groton, Connecticut. So this one stands out as the definitely the most suspicious. Oh, there's Eric in the background.
Oh yeah, there he
um,
is.
this one is the most suspicious of these cases when we're talking about an unknown serial killer, and we'll get into the other ones as we go, but we have a pretty good reason for saying that, I feel. March 20th, the very next day, the remains of a missing New Haven mother, Denise Leary, were found in a wooded area in an advanced state of decay. And Denise had been missing since September of 2024 from New Haven, Connecticut. So again, not very close, but it's interesting. At least we should mention the geography of New England because it is a small group of states. Each state is not huge. The whole region of New England could probably fit inside the state of Texas.
That's
I'm
exactly
guessing.
what I was going to compare it to. You
Yeah,
could, it's probably not as big. Yeah, you could probably pop it into Texas and still have some room for Texas. And just
yeah.
want to say we're getting people right now from all over the world. We got Ben from the
Yeah.
UK. You
Hello,
know,
everybody. Hello,
we have
Belinda.
Belinda
Hello,
from
Ross.
Australia.
Yep. Ben. Yep. Ben says R.I.P. Molly, or Ross says R.I.P. Molly Bish. Yes, we have
Yep.
covered that case in depth, and that is a sad case. Okay, continuing on here. On March 26th, the remains of a missing woman, Michelle Romano, were located in Foster, Rhode Island. And it's important to mention that Michelle's family believes her death is suspicious, but is adamant that she is not the victim of a serial killer. So they have a private investigator working on this case, and that tells me that they feel like they know who may have done it, the person or persons who may have done it to their family member.
Yep.
And then April 9th, 2025, unidentified human remains were located in Killingly, Connecticut. No information on gender or age. So again, just not enough there to mention or speculate really one way or another. We did want to mention the body that was found in Framingham. Framingham, Massachusetts. And I think this was the beginning of March. We didn't go over this in our recent episode. There just isn't that much information, but on March 5th, it appears that there was a body found near Old Connecticut Path between Danforth Street and River Path Drive in Framingham, Massachusetts. But I think, again, it's important to note that Framingham police say there is no threat to the public at this time. So what that means in cop speak is there is no sign of foul play.
We hope so.
Well, that's what that means, right? Because they wouldn't say that if they thought it was a murder.
I agree. So yeah. So I hope so. I hope there is no active threat to the public.
Yeah. Or unless they had the person that they thought did it behind bars or something, then they would say that. But
yeah,
in this scenario, I think it's fair to say that they don't suspect foul play in that body found. And then just searching this, so yesterday, April 24th, 2025, there were remains of an eighth person found in New England in Springfield, Massachusetts. And so this was the body of a woman recently discovered on a riverfront bike path, and it has fueled more rumors about a potential serial killer or killers targeting New England residents. So this was a body that was discovered at 8 a.m. on Tuesday of this week, and the police received calls. This was an adult woman found near the 1500 block of Hall of Fame Avenue in Springfield, Massachusetts, so right near the Basketball Hall of Fame. The woman was pronounced dead shortly after she was found. No, actually, it does say police believe that foul play was not involved in at least 3 of the deaths. Let's see, but it doesn't seem to comment specifically about this death. They do say the homicide unit is conducting an unattended death investigation pending an autopsy. So it's possible. Yeah.
The crime rate in Springfield, Massachusetts is higher than most cities of its size. I was looking this up. It's 863 violent crimes per 100,000 people. So 100,000 people, 863 violent crimes. So it's higher than most cities of its size. It is, I believe, the highest or one of the highest in Massachusetts for crime rates and also for drug use. So to find somebody unresponsive and then subsequently passing away in this area kind of seems to me like a drug overdose.
Yeah, it's very possible. Very possible. But so after going through all those bodies found, I think we're really left with one being
The most
suspicious.
obviously suspicious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
suspicious in the sense that there could be a serial killer. Now, I'm not saying these other bodies weren't murder victims. There's not enough information to say they were or weren't. But the body found in the suitcase is the most suspicious to me. Michelle Romano was met with foul play, was murdered. But again, her family believes they know who the killer is, and I guess they have a private investigator on the case who they seem to be honing in on a person or persons. So I'm going to exclude her from considering her to be the victim of a serial killer when we're talking about this larger situation.
And the thought that just keeps coming into my head is, I don't know, why are we leaning to serial killer so immediately? The press is just going straight to the serial killer. It's really tickling that morbid fascination that, I mean, I even have it. I I'm fascinated by the fact that the news outlets are considering that this is a possibility. And then it starts to snowball and it starts to become, it's a monster in itself. This narrative that there's a serial killer. Why are we so desperate to have this be the reality that we can't separate a drug overdose death, a domestic dispute, homicide, and an accidental death? Like, bringing it all into the serial killer theory is really fascinating to me.
Well, my comment on that is it seems to me that this is not the media pushing this narrative because most of the articles that I've seen will say, well, police said there's no reason for alarm, no reason to rush to judgment, um, or they put out the information, but basically the reporting is about people online talking about this. So I really think this drumbeat started on TikTok and just social media in general. So I think that's where people are really considering this to be a serial killer. I don't think this is happening in police stations. I don't think this is happening in newspaper rooms or maybe podcasts. But I don't even really think it's being considered by newspaper journalists at this point.
I agree that it's not being considered, well, I mean, not totally considered by law enforcement. I would like to think that they are at least eliminating that possibility, that they are considering it and eliminating it. But I mean, when you just simply Google New England serial killer, Fox News, the headline that's right there: New England serial killer fears heighten after eighth idyllic town rocked by gruesome murder. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
that's the media driven that.
they're
The New
they're
York
kind of
Post,
experts at framing, I will
yeah,
say. Not necessarily in a good way. They just said New England serial killer fears.
yep,
So the first few words of that are kind of hyperbolic, but also like very attention grabbing. And then
yeah,
the
yeah.
rest of that headline is not as much.
Well,
But then it kind of blames it on online fears.
right, right, right. I was getting to a larger point here, and
Sorry, yeah.
you just nailed it. That the first few words are the same words on all of them, except
Yeah.
for NBC Boston, which is local authorities pump brakes on speculation about a New England serial killer. So
Yeah, yeah.
the NBC Boston is the only one that leads with, at least in the general search, the general Google search, they're the only one that leads with police are pumping brakes on this. Everybody
Right.
else is like all of New England is paralyzed with fear.
Now, I wonder, can we find a view count on those articles and compare that the
Right,
last one you mentioned?
right,
Because
right, right.
I'm
Who's
sure
I'm sh-
the ones that lead with fears of New England serial killer or New England serial killer fears,
yeah,
um, get more views. And I think that's just a matter of the online ecosystem.
right.
Uh,
And I'm
yeah.
gonna just pat myself on the back here. If I were to share a
Mhm.
screenshot of this Google search on my computer, the only one that I clicked on was the NBC Boston one, and you can see it because it's highlighted.
Right.
Right. So maybe that's me being responsible. I don't know. But that one to me stood out because it was different. But you're right. If you were to look at the view counts on that, NBC is probably a distant 6 or 7.
Yeah, I would think so. Okay, some comments here from the audience. Let's see. What's up, Jason? Ross mentions Karina Holmer, and that is a really interesting case. If I'm not mistaken, that is an au pair from Boston
Oh
that was
yeah.
murdered and found in a dumpster. I believe this was in the 90s. I would like to cover that case at some point. I believe that is an unsolved murder. Belinda mentions, I do know of the serial killer Ivan Mallet, who was one of Australia's most violent serial killers. And Ross has heard of that serial killer as well. I certainly have not. Yeah. Ross mentions the Connecticut River Valley Killer active again. I don't think I wouldn't think that this is the same thing. I think if the Connecticut River Valley Killer, who did seem like um, probably one person mostly in a lot of those murders, I think that person's older now if they're alive and not in jail.
Right. But if you want the full story on the the Connecticut River Valley serial killer, check out the podcast Dark Valley, which we were co-producers on. Fantastic podcast. Rumored to have a season 2 coming out at some point, so stay updated on that. The Karina Holmer. Right. I haven't thought of that in a while. 1996,
Yeah.
Swedish au pair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we will cover that because I remember that was one of the topics that we had discussed pretty seriously about covering way back in the day on Crawl Space. But I'm with you on the Connecticut River Valley Killer not being active today, if those murders were even connected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too hard to say. Like looking at all these cases in New England, you really can't build a profile of a killer because we don't know. We don't know. Again, there's not enough information here to say if there is or isn't a serial killer. And because we can't include or really exclude these bodies, there's no way to draw a profile of a potential killer for these bodies.
It does make me wonder. Oh, sorry, go.
Yeah, well, my last point there is you can't compare it to the Connecticut River Valley Killer because it's not. There's no profile yet.
Right, and that makes me wonder if there's any consideration amongst law enforcement to come up with a profile of whoever did these acts on the individuals, the bodies that they found, because I don't even know how far they could get with that. The individual that was found in the suitcase might be the closest one that you could have to present to a profiler to say who would do something like this, just based on the type of person that was in that suitcase. That person,
for sure.
Yeah, that person had some conditions, right? I can't remember off the top of my head what that condition is, but they were of shorter stature. They had larger
Turner
features.
syndrome.
Turner syndrome. Yes.
Yeah, I believe it was that body. Yes, that was found that had the Turner syndrome in the suitcase. Yeah.
Right. So I could imagine that there is kind of a long shot of a profile that you could come up with that body. I mean, but that's the only one that I could consider.
Yeah, I think you need more than one
to bring in a profiler.
So I think with that body, they need to identify who that was, because more than likely that will lead them to who killed the person.
Right.
It's probably someone who knew them, probably potentially a family member or something like that. I had mentioned before we started the live show that, it's not even confirmed that that is a murder victim, because if that was someone who died in a house and maybe the family members are unconventional And they, keep in mind that the suitcase was dropped off near a cemetery in Groton, Connecticut. So that's what kind of gave me that idea that maybe this wasn't actually a murder at all. Just kind of playing devil's advocate there. It sure seems like it on the surface, but we just don't know. So, and furthermore, that those people, if someone actually put a body in a suitcase and deposited it near a cemetery and didn't murder the person, that's still a crime. That's like desecration and improper, what was it?
Disposal
The
of a
disposal of a body,
remains,
right?
yeah.
Right.
But I see what you're saying, though. In some sense, it being near a cemetery was this person's way of putting to rest the body.
Possibly, yeah.
Could
I
be.
mean, yeah. If I'm pressed, I would say that's a murder victim. But I guess it's just my point of saying we don't know for sure.
Right. And that's about as close, I think, to a profile that we would get from even a profiler. Like we
Yeah,
just did that in like 3 minutes. We came up with a little bit of a profile of the person who could have done that.
yeah,
And what we came to is that there's a possibility that the person knew this individual. There's a strong possibility that they did not kill them, but did not want the body to be discovered in their direct or immediate proximity. But they wanted to
right,
dispose of the body. They wanted to kind of properly dispose of them, so they took the body to a cemetery.
right.
I mean,
But
that's a
now
bit of a profile.
it's a bit, but I would also say that when that body was found, if it was not foul play, and someone, maybe a family member or friend or something, put the suitcase near the cemetery, they probably would have come out maybe and said something. You would think maybe,
Yeah.
because it's just a matter of time, I would think, before they identify who was in that suitcase and then are able to trace that person back to probably an address, probably some living family members, and start to build an idea of what might have happened to that person. But so I think that's the first step that needs to happen in this whole thing. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep. And Ross also says this is very Long Island serial killer esque. All these bodies, I will agree up until, or I'll only agree up until all these bodies, because
Mhm.
wasn't the Long Island serial killer specifically targeting sex workers?
I
weren't
believe so.
weren't
I
weren't
believe,
those bodies connected in some
yeah,
way to sex work?
I believe so. Yeah,
Right. And these we have, you know, a mom who still had children at home, who was not into, who did not, as far as we know, she was not a sex worker. Well, a couple of moms.
yeah.
None
Michelle
of them have
Romano
been
and
connected
Denise
to
Leary.
sex work, as far as we know.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, like the most fascinating part to me, which I tried to articulate when I didn't realize my microphone was wrapped around my sweater, was that I'm very fascinated why this particular cluster of bodies is being discussed with the word serial killer connected to it. Because you and I
Yeah.
talked about this. It's not like they found the bodies and unless we're not getting the information, they didn't find the bodies with stab wounds. They didn't find the bodies with the same caliber, bullet that was in the body. There's nothing connecting them, not only to each other, but to a murder specifically.
Right. Yeah. Nothing at all. So it's very, very loose connections here. I think what you said in the episode that we released was, it's just the time period in which these bodies were found, and in a small geographical location, relatively being New England.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, thank you, Ross. I'm going to put this on screen because no one's ever said that before. Haha, first.
um, yeah, I also want to mention that Ross mentioned Ivan Mallet or Millat, the backpacker hitchhiker serial killer. That awful Wolf Creek movie was based on him. I
Yeah,
thought that movie was kind of disturbing in a
it
good
was
way.
disturbing. Yeah, I
Yeah,
I think it is an awful movie in a disturbing way. I think it was a well-made movie, but
yeah.
I probably wouldn't revisit that. I don't think.
I saw it in the movie theater on Christmas Day, and
Oh,
then I never
yikes.
saw it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Belinda must have really good knowledge of Ivan Mallet because they're both Australian based.
Right.
But I
Mhm.
mean, how many New Englands can you fit in Australia?
Jeez, I don't know. That's a great question. Probably 10
Oh, at least 10.
at least, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. And then Ross mentions Brianna Maitland as well. Yes, Brianna Maitland disappeared in 2004 from Montgomery, Vermont. We've done extensive coverage of her disappearance as well. Spoken with her father and investigators on the case. You can check out playlists on YouTube if you're listening there.
And I would be more interested in getting into a conversation about Maura Murray and Brianna Maitland being victims of the same serial killer if that was a conversation that had been started today.
Yeah. Well, there are similarities in those cases
Right.
that really aren't present to our knowledge in these cases that we're talking about, the current ones in New England. The fact that both young women went missing and their car was left behind, and they were 90 miles or 80 to 90 miles away from each other, found within 6 weeks of each other. The cars anyway. The young women were never found. Brianna was 17, Maura was 21. Um, and very possible in both cases that Brianna and Maura were abducted from the area right near their car. And Brianna's probably more specifically looks like that, when you take a look at the pictures and things like that.
Right.
Maura's car doors were locked, but very possible that happened to her as well.
Right. Right. And people have speculated that it's the same person. People have all they've speculated that it's Israel Keys who was responsible because he was in that area. Even he was known to have been in that area, but the police and law enforcement agencies have ruled him out of that. So the conversation there gets kind of put to rest pretty quickly when you talk about that. And again, I'm just going back to like, why is it that these particular individuals at this particular moment in time are being discussed with the serial killer theory attached to it? And it's only going to get worse. It's only going to grow. If there's another
Yeah.
body that's discovered today or tomorrow, then it's like 9 bodies, 10 bodies, and that's going to be the lead every single time. And poor NBC Boston's going to be like, listen, pump the brakes. They're going to be shouting, pump the brakes, but people aren't. People want this story.
Yeah, and and the reporting is all sort of about the drumbeat. And this Facebook page, New England SK,
Yeah.
I believe is the name of it. It's up to um it's
It's
up to
like
more.
9,000, 10,000.
No, it was, let me see. I think I wanted to say it was up more like 100,000 now. It was 18,000, I want to say, when I
18,000?
joined. When I joined the other day, it was at 18,000, but I want to say it's more like at 100,000 now. Let me see here. 22,000. Okay. So it's
22,000.
yeah. So it's definitely been jumping. Rolling Stone released an article an hour ago. Social media is full of speculations, and folks are torn over whether these armchair sleuths are helping or hurting.
I don't know. Are we armchair sleuths? What we're doing right now? Are we helping or hurting?
Well, I think we're sort of urging a pumping of the brakes as well, in discussing these. We're certainly not adding fuel to the fire right now, other than talking about it. But um, we're not going to stop people from talking about it. And frankly, that's a losing battle. We couldn't do that anyway.
Right.
Yeah, the amount of people on social media who have shared this story, is kind of what got us understanding that this was something we needed to at least speak about on the podcasts.
Mhm.
Not because, oh, look at how many shares they're getting, but because, oh, look at how many people in the New England area are interested in this, and we got to dive into this ourselves too.
Yeah, I'm just going through this Rolling Stone article that you
Yeah,
referenced, which was released today. Brenna Elrich is the writer on this. I hope I got the
Ehrlich.
Ehrlich, Brenna Ehrlich, and it seems to be that this is very centered on Michelle Romano's family and how they are frustrated with the fact that her how they're frustrated with the fact that she was missing, and then people supported that. This is just in the first couple of paragraphs. People supported that online. They had flyers, and her body was discovered, and the frustration sets in when her name is now being connected to this, and they can't stop that.
Right. I just want to read a quote here from Police Chief of Groton, Connecticut, Luis Fusaro. He says, "There's multiple agencies investigating different parts of this. What I can tell you is there's been multiple incidents, including some that we've investigated involving missing people, that folks on social media seem to perceive as a serial killer. I can tell you we don't have any evidence of that." End quote. So that's a good quote. Just because he doesn't, there's no evidence of it, doesn't mean that it's not existent right now. So he's kind of saying that, but also urging people not to rush to judgment, because if there's no evidence, probably no reason to take the idea too far.
Right. I just want to read the quote from Michelle Romano's sister, Valerie. Did you see that? The quote
No.
that she had about the, I don't know if it's specifically about the Facebook page that, or the Facebook group that you mentioned, but it says uh, the flyers that they were distributing when Michelle was missing were posted to the Facebook group that is dedicated to catching a serial killer. And her quote is, take my sister Michelle's name and picture off of this effing website right now. She was not killed by a serial killer." And that was a quote from her sister Valerie.
Yep.
So this is just, fueling the fire of frustration for these families, that
Yeah.
the names and faces and likenesses and descriptions of these
Yeah.
people are being talked about in the same conversation as a serial killer. And there's a lot more personal stuff going on in these families that shouldn't be discussed publicly.
Yeah. Valerie goes on a little bit too. She says the rumors going around do nothing but torture us over and over again. We can't even grieve. It's only been 2 weeks since she's been found, and we still have a long road ahead because we don't even have her body to bury her. So I guess the body hasn't been released yet to the family. I suppose they're checking out, doing an autopsy, or figuring out cause of death and all that. So yeah, and I do want to. We did pull the picture off of the episode. I did include photos of Paige Fannin and Denise Leary, but I had Michelle's photo in there, but because I saw those comments, I took them down. And I don't think it's disrespectful to speak about her, but I think we should, as content creators, make a clear line that this case is not part of this. And in future conversations that we may have about this, we should probably leave her out of those completely, because she was not killed by this serial killer. It sure seems.
Right. And it is, a obvious ethical crossroads that people in our position have to come to and make a decision. We aren't the show that will take the breaking trending news and run with it. I think our track record over the past decade shows that we focused on one for like for like 2000 episodes with no breaking news for the most part.
Yeah.
So we're not the
Two.
show that will lean to the blowing news wind whenever it happens. We felt the need to cover this one as it's happening because it's a rare thing to experience in the true crime genre, which we're in. So yeah, here's the crossroads that we're at. Thank you all for joining us as we make these decisions. We're not trying to glorify or dramatize or I don't even sensationalize these serial killers or the possibility that these individuals who are deceased are connected to one individual. But that's the news that's happening right now. And I think it would do less of a service if we didn't talk about it, if we just let it pass without talking about it. Because at some point, we're not going to talk about it because there will be some sort of conclusion to hopefully all of these, but at least a couple that'll prove definitively, okay, they're not connected, even though
Yeah.
law enforcement's telling us that now. But to not talk about it doesn't feel like we're doing the right thing either.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine to talk about. Yeah, I just think we have to be careful in sort of being a part of speculate harmful speculation.
Yep. Well, here's an example. Belinda mentions Ivan Mallet again, and she says that he was a serial killer that was not discovered for years in Australia. He came from a very dysfunctional family and probably murdered many more young people than he was ever prosecuted for. Okay, so here's sort of the example of not talking about something. Like if maybe if we were around or if this podcasting true crime thing was around in that area back then and people were talking about those bodies, maybe Ivan would have been caught sooner.
Right.
And even if the police were saying, hey, they're not connected, we have nothing to connect them yet, and people were talking about it, maybe he would have been caught sooner. So
Right.
I get it from all sides. Like, we don't want to be
Yeah.
disrespectful to the families, but we also don't want to be disrespectful to the community by not talking about it.
Right. And law enforcement will often ask for help from the public. They haven't in this scenario
Mhm.
right now, but they often do. So how is the public supposed to know when they're supposed to get involved versus not? Like I get it from their perspective. I also get it from the police's perspective, where I think it seems a little annoying right now for them
Yeah.
because there isn't any evidence to point to this. But it's not going to stop people from talking, and they know that. They know that there's no way to stop that other than commenting publicly on it. So I appreciate all the comments that they've made in the media, even if they are sort of throwing cold water on these ideas.
Hmm.
Oh, here's Ross with a super chat here. Oh, that is interesting. I forgot. I don't think that comes up on Riverside. It's only here on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Ross. So Ross says, "Thank you for doing this live. Do you completely rule out Officer Pepper in Maura Murray's disappearance?" And shout out to Chris King. Chris King was a guest we had. I want to say this is episode 69 of Missing Maura Murray. Way back in the days. This is like 2016, 2017. Yeah, it's probably 2017.
Yeah.
So Officer Pepper was Bruce McKay. That was the officer's nickname.
Because he
And
liked to
yeah,
pepper spray people.
right. That was why he had been given that nickname, apparently. But yeah, I don't think there's any reason that. No, I don't think he's a viable suspect in Maura Murray's disappearance, in my opinion.
Right. The reason why he's always talked about, in addition to his very aggressive policing nature, and I'm trying to very specifically choose my words here. I don't think that saying he was aggressive is speaking against anything that hasn't been reported about,
Yeah.
in regards to him. There's a incredibly disturbing video of him pepper spraying a young woman and
Mhm.
and into submission. Which, when you hear her screaming, you can't unhear that. It's really disturbing to it's really disturbing to watch. It's a really disturbing moment, and it's
Yeah.
also really disturbing to see how he uh, ultimately met his end. That video is very disturbing as well. But anyway, what I was saying is that he's included in that conversation because of the dispatch log, right? Because he was dispatched to the accident, to Mora's single car accident, but he never was registered as arriving according to the dispatch log. So there were
Right. I believe it
multiple
was called off.
officers, yeah, that
Yeah.
were dispatched, but a couple of them were never marked down as arriving. So they, for whatever reason, they were called back, or I don't know. I just always imagine like, okay, the dispatcher was like, we already have enough people there, no need,
Yeah, I think that
stay
was
where
it.
you are.
Yeah.
But that
Mhm.
just started the rumor mill of, okay, now the police are covering it up. Why isn't his name, not marked down as arrived or called back? So the rumor mill started where the police were trying to cover up whatever actions he might have done in, Moore's disappearance. So that along with his reputation is why he's always discussed. But
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, I don't want to sound like a complete a-hole here, but when you fly that close to the sun like he did, I mean, they've made movies that are fictional about crooked cops, aggressive cops, cops that do what he's done, and in the end, it's never a good result. Like, if you anger that many people, there's only so much pushing you can do before people push back, and you never know who's not in their right frame of mind at that time. And
Yeah.
that's what happened to him. And that's not me saying like he got what he deserved, but when you go
Yeah.
down that road, those are the people that you're going to like. That's the world you've built. You
Right.
don't go back.
Right. Yeah, and of course, he had an incident with Lico Kenny, sort of a car chase. Lico Kenny ended up firing at Bruce McKay. Bruce McKay fired back. Um, both were hit, but Lico then drove over Officer McKay
Yeah,
and killed him.
absolutely
Um, Le-
wild story.
yeah, Lico also died in
Yeah,
that shootout, that same
yeah,
shootout. Yeah,
and that's again to my point. Bruce McKay got out of the car and immediately pepper sprayed him,
yeah,
and Lico snapped and shot him, and then ran him
yeah,
over.
yeah.
And then, why is his name escaping me?
Greg Floyd.
Greg Floyd, out of nowhere. It was the
Right.
Wild West, for God's
So he
sake.
was a neighbor. Yeah. So he was a neighbor in his truck and sort of saw the altercation. And so he shot Lico afterwards, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Right. Okay. So that's right. I forgot how that happened. So Bruce McKay didn't shoot him. He pepper sprayed Lico.
right.
Lico shot Bruce, ran him over, and then Greg Floyd shot Lico and
Yes,
killed
and
him.
Greg Floyd's son was in the truck, and
Yeah.
we've always theorized that we know that Greg Floyd had a radio in his truck, a CB.
Yeah.
So he knew that was happening. He knew that there was a police chase, and I'm quoting chase because it was a slow speed chase, but McKay was following Lico. He knew that was happening. So we've always theorized like he went to that scene. He knew that scene was happening. I'm getting all fired up about that. Wow. See what happens when we revisit a topic after a decade. Greg Floyd.
um,
Greg Floyd. I will
yeah.
say
Yeah.
without apology.
Exactly, Ross.
Yeah.
Right. So Ross says he told Lico's friend to pick up the gun
Exactly.
because Floyd wanted to shoot the passenger in Lico's car as well. It sure seemed,
Yes.
telling him to pick up the gun.
Yeah. And then remember
He
what he
didn't
said
do
to the
that.
police officer who
Yeah.
showed up? He
Yeah.
told the
He said
police
he had,
officer, "Easy, son."
right.
Greg
Right.
Floyd
And then
is
he
crazy.
claimed he had killed a bunch of people.
Yep. Yep. And
Yeah.
he had that
Yeah.
altercation at
I
the
mean,
courthouse.
right. Right. Yeah. So I mean, I kind of feel like Greg Floyd is a better direction to look at than Bruce McKay, but yeah, I mean that whole area has got some characters.
Whew. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a
I'm quicker than you. That's right. He did
I'm
say that. I'm
quicker than
quicker than
you.
you.
Easy, son. I'm
Yeah.
quicker than you.
Yeah. Good memory there, Ross. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Jeez.
Thank you, Ross. Ross is our official fact checker.
Yes.
I'm quicker than you.
Yeah, that is a
You've been
crazy
you've been pulled
moment.
over by the police, right? For maybe speeding or a yellow line
Never been
violation or
pulled over.
never been pulled over.
Yeah.
Well,
No. Several times. Yeah.
yeah. Would it ever occur to you to talk? You'd never say it in that situation, but would it ever occur to you to talk to a police officer in that manner to try to show dominance over a police officer?
No.
I'm quicker than you.
Yeah.
He's Ross says,
Yeah.
I forgot about that wacko.
Yeah.
I'm not apologizing for it. Greg Floyd was tapped. He
Yeah.
he was crazy. Not fun
Yeah.
crazy.
Right. Who was the journalist he attacked too? Didn't we speak to? Was
Yes.
that?
Yeah, outside of like the courthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right. In the restroom.
Yeah. Was that Casey Sherman? It was Casey
It was
Sherman.
Casey Sherman.
That's right.
Episode coming out on Sunday. Casey Sherman's new book, Blood in the Water. Excellent book.
Yeah.
Excellent writer. Excellent
Yeah.
guest. Good friend.
That does seem like a Casey Sherman book, doesn't it? Or did he wrote a book on it?
He did,
Bad
yeah.
Blood, right?
Yeah, Bad Blood. Memory Lane. We thought we weren't going to go
Yeah.
on for 20 minutes. We're at 45 minutes and we're going down memory lane right now.
That is funny. I forgot about Casey
Yeah.
writing the book on that, but that is totally the kind of story that he would write a book on. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, great
Yeah.
moment. Great moment right here.
Wow. All right, everyone. Well, yeah, I don't have too much more to say on this case. I will say, make sure to check out the most recent missing episodes. We did a second episode in our Bennington Triangle series, and it's about the disappearance of Paula Weldon, and that came out just yesterday on Missing. So definitely check that out because that is a phenomenal episode, in my opinion.
Yes. And don't connect that to any serial killings in New England nowadays. That's too old.
Right.
I just did a Google search for past 24 hours for New England serial killer. 3 more bodies. Just kidding. No more bodies have been found.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't wait till that quote's out there.
Well, we will keep our eye on it, and we will be back with more coverage, certainly when there are developments. So we do appreciate you listening here and sticking with us. So thank you very much to everyone listening to this right now. Oh, thank you. The Paula Weldon guest was great. Yes, that's Ross Griffiths.
wait.
He is.
Is this
He's
the same
amazing.
Ross? You're not
I
the
don't
same
know.
Ross, right, Ross?
I didn't think it was the same Ross, but maybe it is.
Ross, is that you?
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening here, and we do appreciate it. We will be back soon.
All right. Stay safe, y'all.